Racist cop pulls gun on black army general. Gets the shock of his life. Major General Sarah Miller, a highly decorated U.S. Army veteran, had finally managed to carve out a rare day off. At 42, with her close-cropped hair streaked with silver, she carried an aura of authority and discipline that was impossible to miss. Today, though, she wasn't leading troops or negotiating peace treaties. No, today was about something much simpler: shopping. Dressed casually in a comfortable tracksuit and sneakers, Sarah blended into the bustling weekend crowd at the upscale Westfield Mall. After decades of military service, where she had commanded thousands of soldiers in high-risk war zones, she had learned to navigate much more dangerous situations than a shopping trip. But today, her only mission: find a quality pair of running shoes and maybe enjoy a smoothie afterward. As she browsed through the latest athletic footwear, she felt eyes lingering on her. It wasn't unusual for people to take notice. Her confident presence often drew attention. But this felt different. There was an edge to these glances, something laced with suspicion. Sarah brushed it off, chalking it up to overthinking. She had no idea that trouble was already on its way. A watchful eye turns into something more. Unbeknownst to her, Officer Troy Becket had just stepped into the mall. A middle-aged cop with a rough exterior, Becket was notorious for his quick assumptions, and an even quicker trigger finger. Over the years, several complaints had been filed against him for racial profiling, yet each one had been conveniently buried by the department. Today he was off duty, dressed in jeans and a plain white t-shirt, but his badge and pistol were still on full display. As he casually walked past the athletic store, his eyes locked onto Sarah. Something about the way she carried herself caught his attention. Her upright posture, her strong presence. To Becket, she simply didn't fit the profile of someone who should be shopping at this high-end mall. His gut instinct, though misguided, told him that she was up to something. So, instead of moving along, he lingered near the entrance, pretending to check his phone while keeping her under careful watch. Meanwhile, Sarah had finally made her choice. She took her selected pair of shoes and headed toward the checkout counter. The young cashier, shifting nervously, gave her an uncertain smile while ringing up the purchase. As she handed over her credit card, she became aware of a presence just beyond the store's entrance. Turning slightly, she noticed Becket standing outside, staring directly at her. An uneasy feeling crept into her chest, but she dismissed it. That was her first mistake, assuming this was just a passing glance. An encounter turns dangerous. The moment Sarah stepped out of the store, bag in hand, Becket moved into her path, blocking her way. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said in a rough voice, his eyes scanning her up and down. "I need to ask you a few questions." Sarah arched an eyebrow, her military instincts immediately picking up on the tension in his stance. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked, her voice firm yet controlled. "You were acting kinda suspicious in there," Becket stated, his hand inching toward his holster. "Mind telling me exactly what you were up to?" Sarah's patience, honed from years of handling high-pressure situations, was already beginning to thin. She lifted her shopping bag slightly. "I was buying shoes," she stated plainly. "That a crime now?" Beckett's expression hardened. "Let me see some ID." Her jaw tightened. "Why?" she challenged. "Have I done something wrong?" Beckett's fingers tensed around his weapon. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." And in that instant, Sarah realized exactly what was happening. This wasn't about her behavior, her actions, or even her presence in the mall. This was about one thing: her skin color. Her heart sank, but she refused to back down. "Officer," she said, her voice unwavering, "I'm going to ask you to take a step back. I haven't done anything wrong, and I won't be treated like a criminal for shopping." But Becket had already made up his mind. His paranoia was driving him, drowning out logic. Before she could say another word, he reached for his gun. The gun comes out. The crowd watches in horror. In a flash, Beckett's pistol was drawn, aimed directly at Sarah's chest. A stunned silence fell over the mall. Shoppers froze. Parents instinctively pulled their children close. Store clerks ducked behind counters, peeking out with wide, terrified eyes. But Sarah, she didn't panic. Years of military training took over. Her heart pounded, but her movements were controlled. Slowly she raised her hands, her sharp eyes locked onto Becket's. "Drop the bag," Becket barked. Sarah let it slip from her fingers, the shoes tumbling to the floor. "Officer," she said, her voice measured but firm, "you're making a mistake. Don't tell me what I'm doing." Becket snapped. "Get on the ground." Sarah hesitated. Getting on her knees meant full submission, something she refused to do. "Officer," she declared, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade, "I am Major General Sarah Miller of the United States Army. I highly suggest you lower your weapon." Becket hesitated. His grip wavered for just a second. Something in her voice, undeniable authority, made him falter. But his prejudice clouded his judgment. "Yeah, right," he scoffed. "Get down or else." "Or else what?" A voice from the crowd shattered the moment. A young man had stepped forward, his phone raised. "She just told you she's a general, dude. You're pointing a gun at a decorated war hero." Beckett's face went crimson. "Put that phone away," he shouted. But it was too late. Others were already filming. Murmurs rippled through the growing crowd. Then, in the distance, the sound of approaching footsteps. Mall security. 2 guards rushed in, assessing the tense scene. "What the hell is going on here?" one of them demanded. Sarah didn't hesitate. "This officer just pulled a weapon on me for no reason," she stated. "I want to speak to his superior now." Within minutes, the mall manager and a police captain arrived. And as fate would have it, the captain, Denise Harper, recognized Sarah instantly. "General Miller." Harper gasped. "What in the world is happening here?" Sarah wasted no time explaining. Harper turned to Becket, fury flashing in her eyes. "Holster your weapon, Officer Becket. Now." He hesitated, but the authority in her voice left no room for argument. Slowly, reluctantly, Becket obeyed. Justice is served. The fallout was swift and brutal. The video of the encounter went viral, sparking outrage nationwide. News outlets exposed Beckett's history of racial profiling, and within a week, he was suspended without pay pending a full investigation. Meanwhile, Sarah received an outpouring of support, her story becoming a rallying cry for justice. "This isn't just about me," she said in an interview. "This is about every person who doesn't have the rank or the platform to stand up for themselves. This has to stop." Her words resonated deeply, proving once again that real change begins with courage, and a voice that refuses to be silenced. The fight against injustice isn't over. Are you ready to stand up and be a part of it?